You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 220 of Podketeers. Halloween time is coming to the Disney parks, and we were surprised to see some additions to Buena Vista Street at California Adventure. Plus, we talk about the rides and areas we would like to create a Halloween overlay for. Also, as of this episode, we have officially said goodbye to Pixar Fest and Bugs Land at California Adventure. I know that it was totally a land for kids, and I'm excited about the new stuff that's coming to the area, but if you want to share something that you're going to miss about Bugs Land, leave a comment and we'll read them in an upcoming episode. Finally, we discussed Disney's decision to bring alcohol to Disneyland for the first time ever since the park opened. Remember that if you want to sound off on this or anything that we talk about, you can join the conversation over on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. Just search for Podketeers. Before we get this episode started, I'd like to remind you that this episode of Podketeers was made possible by the contributions of listeners just like you via Patreon. To us, those listeners are our Fairy Godparents, but they like to call themselves the FGP Squad. You can become part of the FGP Squad for as little as $1 a month, but for a contribution of at least $5, you can also get the exclusive Fairy Godparent button as a thank you for your support. More information about joining the FGP Squad can be found over at podketeers.com/FGP. As always, a huge thank you goes out to the members of the FGP Squad. If you want to connect with us, check out our team page over at podketeers.com/team. Also, make sure to check out our videos on YouTube. We're at youtube.com/podketeers and youtube.com/Disney42. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications whenever we post new videos. Finally, I want to send a quick shout out to our friends over at the Die Hard Disney Nuts Facebook group. It's a great community of people and they're always super supportive of the podcast. If you're not a member, we'll put a link in the blog post for the episode in case you want to go check it out and join. You'll be able to find that over at podketeers.com/220. That's it. Here we go. It's time to get it started. Here is episode 220 of Podketeers. So good morning.
Yes, good morning. As I'm sipping coffee.
Yeah, I know it's afternoon already, guys, but still. My body still says good morning. And it also says, hey, why are you up so early? And I know it's technically past noon already, but my body's still like, hey, why are you up so early? Shouldn't you still be sleeping? And then I tell my body, because I have kids. And the kids get up so early that I gotta be up so that they don't wreck the house.
How early do your kids get up?
I mean, it really depends. If it's a school day, they try to get up as late as possible. But on the weekends, 6 a.m. because they're not going to school.
Jeez. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I would say it differs depending on what we did the night before. Sometimes they'll get up somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock. And if they went to sleep at their normal bedtime, then probably somewhere between 6:30 and 7:30 is their normal time to wake up. So once they get up, I mean, one of us has to be up, because quite frankly, if we're not, they will destroy the house just playing around and stuff. On those rare occasions that I get a chance to wake up and the boys are still asleep, I'll make myself a cup of coffee, grab myself, something to read, and I'll just sit at a window, let the fresh air come in, and I'll just sit there and read, or I'll just sit there and not read and just enjoy my cup of coffee, play some music softly. It's fantastic.
Nice.
It's wonderful me time. I don't get a lot of that, but darn it if I don't cherish that me time now.
I could imagine.
Totally.
So how's it going, guys?
Good.
Yeah?
It's very good.
I saw this text message from you, Gavin, about some stuff you saw at the park, and I was really intrigued, except that, text messaging, videos don't always come through at the highest quality because compression and all that stuff, hashtag technology. Tell us a little bit about that, because when you posted that message, then Melissa got super excited and said she had a follow-up. So I want to hear a little bit about what you guys saw.
All right. Well, the short little 5-second video that I was able to get was very low quality, I agree. And a lot of that was because I was trying to do it right when the park was closing, and, throngs of people were trying to walk by this thing that I was trying to video. So I just had a small window to video this window. And
No pun intended.
what it is, Pixar Fest is winding down, and they're starting to crank up the Halloween season already. And it's true in DCA the most right now, and especially on Buena Vista Street. You're seeing lots of pumpkins and things come in, and it's getting me super excited. And so on our way out, I spotted this window, and I about lost it, and I had to go video it. So I did, and what it is, it's a new window display on Buena Vista Street, and it's animated, and it's a black and white scene of a 1920s, 30s era Mickey Mouse in a haunted house, and two little ghost shadows are popping in and out on either side. And it just has that great nostalgic old school Mickey feel, and it is absolutely perfect for Halloween time. And it just got me so excited, because I thought, okay, this is just one window. They're surely going to do more things like this, and I can't wait to see what rolls out.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's very exciting.
And when I had seen that video footage, it looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
For some of us who see the parks, go to the parks, we could pick up when something's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw your video, I'm like, this is cool. So the first park I go to is DCA, and I saw your window. Oh my God. Video doesn't do justice. Then I see the next window.
There's more?
Yes. It is from my favorite Silly Symphony cartoon, The Skeleton Dance.
Oh,
Shut up.
no.
Which doesn't get enough love. It doesn't. So this window has the two skeletons. They're dancing. They're twirling. And you have Mickey on the end that looks terrified. But Mickey's not in the short. But to see both of them together is awesome.
Oh, wait a second.
Yes.
So the first window that you saw, Gavin,
Mm-hmm.
was it also a Silly Symphony?
I think that is a Silly Symphony cartoon. I have a hard time because I don't own all the Silly Symphony cartoons, so I don't know which ones were specifically Silly Symphonies. So, but I feel like it is. It's one of the haunted house ones. They did a lot of haunted house ones throughout the years.
Yeah. It looks like the same similar style, and the way that it's presented, it's right next to each other.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming yes. But
Well, the cool thing is that in Buena Vista Street, they can actually do period displays that would have been contemporary cartoons from the era of that very street, which is the late 20s and 30s in LA. And that's amazing. They can't do that on Main Street because there was no Disney in 1900.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. And I'm so glad that they're paying homage to those classic cartoons. Those of us who are just Disney heads absolutely love, especially all the early Mickey cartoons. But then also all the Silly Symphonies. And man, oh man, that gets me excited. I hope they do more.
I want to know what's the next window.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just really, I love Halloween.
Yes.
For those who know me, I love Halloween. So I'm really excited to see this happening, to see Buena Vista Street, just DCA get so much more love for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
From when it started, this is amazing. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I just want to know if we're going to get some skeleton dance merchandise.
Ooh,
That would be good.
that would be good.
Hopefully.
That's interesting that they're doing that. I love the okay, so I will say I absolutely love the fact that they're doing that, because the windows at the Emporium on Main Street are one of my favorite features of that Main Street facade. With that said, you're right, Gavin. The fact that they're integrating stuff from very early Disney times, super cool. The fact that Mickey is in both of those windows and he's not part of the skeleton dance makes it a little odd. So I wonder if it's going to be like every window, Mickey is kind of going through each window, experiencing each silly symphony, if that's the trend that they're going with.
Nice.
But I wonder if the first one, because they're keeping with a Halloween theme, if the first one is based on Hell's Bells, or if it's based on any other silly symphony, just to kind of go with the Halloween stuff. And if after Halloween they're going to change them to their permanent window status. Like if this is just a Halloween thing, or if they are keeping with the silly symphony trend. Because you would figure that if it was like the lineage of silly symphonies, the skeleton dance would have been the first window to put up, considering that was the first silly symphony.
Right.
Yeah, man, I'm just so excited to go see them. I'm hoping to go to the park tonight, because tomorrow is the 3rd, right? Tomorrow's officially the last day of Pixar Fest. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm hoping to go tonight to just get some photos. Hopefully Bugs Land and the fireworks show one last time, because, you know, who knows when I'm going to need that specific photo of, remember that bottle cap and that hidden Mickey that was on there? It was like, does anybody have a photo of that? Where was that? And I want to be like, I have that photo. Because, you know, I think at this point my entire catalog is just over 60,000 photos. And who doesn't need a super slow archive of photos in Lightroom? This guy, that's who. But yeah, I mean, I want to try to get some photos, just, you know, like I said, just for posterity's sake. And one day when I'm looking back at all of this, I want to remember the details as best as possible. And you never know when those things are helpful, right? But for sure, I want to try to head down, and then I want to see these windows. And they already started putting up like the tree and everything in front of DCA, right? The haunted tree with Oogie and stuff like that. Didn't they start putting that up already? Yeah, the sign
above the gate has already been mostly installed.
Yeah, the stump, as it looks right now. Because I remember you also sent a text message, Gavin, when you were there a couple days ago, that pretty much all the Pixar Fest banners are down already.
Well, the sign above the DCA entrance had been taken down. All the Esplanade banners and Downtown Disney banners are still up.
Oh, so it's literally just where they build Oogie and the tree with the big moon over the DCA.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Woo, I'm excited to see those windows, man.
You're going to flip. It's really cool. And the best part is that they're actually kind of simple. But it works.
Compared to the ones at the Emporium, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they more 2D?
It's in keeping. Yeah. They look more like they're 2D, like dioramas.
Oh.
And
yes.
Yeah, it's more in keeping with the look and feel of those cartoons, and it really is a very good homage or tribute to those cartoons, because it looks like them. It just looks like there's a little bit more dimension. It's almost like you're up close to a multiplane, and you can just see that, you know, the background element is further back, you know,
right.
but it does look 2D. Yeah.
I love it. I want to go right now.
Very cool.
Can we stop recording just so I can go?
Sure.
Twist our arms.
Super cool. Well, once I head down there, I'm going to try to do video of whatever it's there. And then I will post it, or one of us, when we go again, we could post it to the Instagram stories, IGTV, or on YouTube, so you guys can check it out, because that just sounds super cool. Yeah, Pixar Fest is ending. All the Halloween stuff is happening. How much of the Halloween stuff is at DCA already, aside from the pumpkins?
I mean, really, it's just along Buena Vista Street. They've got some pumpkins and decorations in windows and on shelves in stores, and then those couple of window displays. I don't think they've done anything in the hub where the Headless Horseman is yet.
Oh, okay.
And nothing in Cars Land yet. And
I'm excited for that.
We don't know if there will be any new areas decorated. I hope so. I think there's some areas that could be really cool, but I haven't heard any actual news. I mean, of course, a lot of it they like to just surprise us with, like these windows. They didn't announce, hey, we're doing new animated windows. They just do it, and then people like me fall over dead.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the truth, man. When stuff like this happens, where we don't hear weeks in advance, like the rumor mill says that blah, blah, blah is happening, and all of a sudden this stuff just pops up, I appreciate it so much more, and I enjoy it so much more
100%.
because I'm not looking for it, and I don't have an expectation for it because I've been hearing about it for so long, which for a long time, and this kind of gets into, the roots of the podcast. A lot of people have asked me over time, why don't you guys report on all these rumors? And we do occasionally report on the rumors, but we always state it as that. We always say, well, this is just a rumor, and we just thought it was interesting because, and then we'll give our take on it. But we don't report on rumors because, one, we don't know if it's factual, and even if it's coming from this amazing source that, yes, they've never been wrong and all that stuff, in a way, we don't fully feel that it's our place to spoil that stuff before it happens. Like, once it's out in public, whole different story, right?
Yes.
Then we could fully talk about it and stuff like this, like these windows. But I personally feel like I appreciate stuff more when it surprises me, and I don't know 6 months in advance, they've been talking about these windows, guys. They said there's this silly symphonies or whatever they're going to be, so... In case you guys have ever wondered, and you guys are new to the podcast, why we don't tend to report on rumors and just state them as fact, or why we don't, address them every week, that's why. Because we like to be surprised too. Over anything else, we're Disney fans just like you guys. And we love to see this stuff in the parks, and we love what Imagineering does. And, that's kind of why I feel personally, we've stood by that over the years. So, yeah, there's a little background and some behind the scenes stuff for you guys.
Well said. Can I start a rumor?
Yeah, let's start a rumor.
Here's my rumor. It's not a rumor. It's an idea I have, and I would love it to come to fruition. What if they took the area in DCA around Grizzly Peak, the main path, and then the path kind of behind the scenes there, and made it like a creepy area with maybe some extra fog and some lighting and some sounds, kind of like what they do in Disneyland during Mickey's Halloween party in certain areas, especially the Big Thunder Mountain Trail. When you go back there, it's super creepy and foggy.
Yes.
They could do that so perfectly in that Grizzly River Run area, and especially that back trail. And man, that could be a really neat area if they wanted to do it.
Dude.
What?
Oh my God. Okay. Brain's cranking here. Here we go. You ready for this? Okay. All right. I got two huge ideas. Oh, dude. Okay. One, bunch of fog, right? You're going through the forest. You hear all these creepy sounds. And then all of a sudden you hear clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. And in the distance, you see the glowing eyes of not one but two creatures. And as it slowly approaches you, you see that it's the Headless Horseman coming to you in the forest. Huh?
And then he chucks a flaming pumpkin at your face.
And then you run. And then you run to the opposite direction. And then you hear all this chanting. And then you're wondering, well, what is that? What is that chanting that I hear? And as the fog begins to clear, you see the Sanderson sisters conjuring something up in the forest.
Oh my gosh. Why doesn't this exist?
I'm saying, how exciting would that be? Oh, they need to repurpose that, and they need to repurpose that now.
Yes.
I'm
Agreed.
so on board with this.
I had to catch my breath there for a moment because it's like, oh my God. Yes.
She's literally fanning her face right now. Oh my God.
I would do anything for the Sanderson sisters here. So much. So, yes, on both accounts. Yes.
And then all of a sudden they all break out into spontaneous dance.
I like it.
Yeah, that would be super cool. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? We talked about it last year, right before Halloween time as well, because Hong Kong Disney has been doing kind of like this really plussed up version of Halloween where they don't just do like an overlay and a couple of decorations. They set up escape room type situations with like crazy versions of the Mad Hatter and all these other characters that you probably would be afraid of if you saw them in their like quote unquote true fashion, right? And if they set up something like that here in DCA, I think it would be just a fantastic experience because for the most part, a lot of guests of the resort will agree that of the two, DCA is really the more, adult park, right? It really does cater more to adults, not just because of the alcohol and stuff, which is a whole other conversation we're going to have later in the podcast.
Right.
But because the attractions, I think, are more geared towards adults. There aren't very many kiddie rides. There are some, but not like a lot, right? And I think more people consider Disneyland to be that like childlike park. Doesn't mean that everybody can't enjoy it. It just means that in the way that Walt always saw the park. But if DCA brought some of those escape room elements over to the Hollywood backlot, they've already kind of started doing that with Monsters After Dark and all that stuff. But if they brought those escape rooms to the Hollywood stages, I like last year when I found out about these, I was super psyched and I was just flipping over it. I think that would be a huge hit here at California Adventure. And then you plus it by doing what Gavin was suggesting, where you use that forest area. That's it.
Yeah.
You win, Disney. You win this round again.
Even if the escape rooms, I mean, if they were to be, you could take Disney twisted. I would love to have an escape room, and I know it's not in the same park, but if it were to be in the bayou, and I love the fog, I love the sound, walking through the bayou, and you start hearing these little chants, and then you see Facilier and his friends from the other side.
Ooh.
I think that would be so much fun. That, or you could bring Oogie's, bring his lab, bring his place. I would love to see all that. The casino aspect, you're trying to get through and you have these cards coming at you, the dice, the bugs. Yes, Disney, just bring them all. Just bring them all. That would be so much fun.
It would be cool.
What if they had like this tab system, like the food and wine? So every time you want to go, you would use a tab. You would have to purchase them.
So like you could have a limited number of tabs and you'd have to pick which escape rooms you did?
Right.
Ooh.
So you would kind of control the amount of people doing this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that would work out if they set up more than one. I mean, at this point, I would just want Disney to set up one.
Right.
I don't even care about the multiple. I just want like one.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to do it where it's more like a maze thing. And there's no better time than the present, for Halloween than to give the Disney villains their time to shine, right? We see them in like the Halloween parade. We see them as part of, the fireworks shows. But man, if ever there was a time to do it, it would be for Halloween, where every room is a different Disney villain. And it doesn't even have to be like super scary to the point where you portray them as this evil character that's going to like literally kill you in that room. It could be more of a psychological thing where you hear the voices and you like just feel the presence. You see shadows and stuff like that in the background. And sometimes those psychological experiences are so much more terrifying than the physical ones.
Yep. 100%.
Do you guys remember Big Thunder Ranch when they had the little Halloween tent? The little carnival, and this points out to the psychological aspect of it, where it was a tent. Everybody was in there. You were hearing all these things, and you didn't know which villain was going to come out.
Oh my
If
God.
they were to bring that back and twist it up and make it a little bit more, that would be cool.
Yeah. Oh, man. See, I'm glad that Disney listens to the podcast. Because this is gold. I think there's a lot. Well, maybe there aren't. I mean, do you think there are any other attractions that would benefit from a Halloween overlay? The reason I'm asking is because this year they announced that at Walt Disney World, Pirates of the Caribbean was going to have like a spookier element to it. And not like pumpkins and stuff like that, right? There aren't.
Oh, good.
There aren't going to be like pumpkins and stuff all over the attraction, but they're going to do something where there's going to be a live action, pirate walking around the attraction, interacting with guests as they're sailing through, and it's something called the Search for Gunpowder Pete. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to be this ghost or something that they're after, or they're trying to find this treasure or something, but there's a live action element, with the guests that are experiencing the attraction. Do you think that it's something that they could integrate into an attraction where they jump out and they just kind of scare the living tar out of you?
I don't know. I think that's an interesting idea. I think that on Pirates, a person like that could blend in to a lot of those scenes, and just appear to be, one of those pirates, and try and kind of stiffen up their motions a little bit and look like an animatronic, and then, kind of surprise people by really moving. Mm-hmm. And, so that's and it's a unique scenario where you actually have human, pretty realistic characters in there. Not every attraction has that for you to blend into. So you would have to be like in costume or something if you were to put a live person in other attractions. Like, didn't they do something with the suit of armor in the Haunted Mansion at some point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They did have some. So, funny story. If you guys didn't know, when the Haunted Mansion first opened, one of the experiments that they had was a cast member inside of a suit of armor, and you see this as you're first getting into the Haunted Mansion right by the endless hallway. The suit of armor would just kind of jump out and scare guests in the doom buggies. And part of the reason that they stopped doing that was because it was so scary to some guests that they were essentially punching and kicking the suit of armor, thus hurting the cast member inside said suit of armor. And so, from a standpoint of trying to keep your cast member safe, you don't want to do that. So if they did it on Pirates, they would have to be at a safe enough distance where somebody's not going to put you in a triangle choke for scaring them.
Right.
Which is easy to do because if they're on the shore, they're nowhere near close enough for somebody to strike from the boat, right?
Right.
Right. So that could work. But my brain's rolling now too, Hazen. So here's what I'm thinking. If they wanted to really do a creepy thing in Pirates, they don't do it, on the shore. They do it in the water. And they do it.
Yes.
I'm picturing when you come out of the cave and you enter the harbor and you see the battle scene, you've got that expanse of black water. And if something were to just all of a sudden rise up out of that water in front of you or next to you, that would be really creepy.
Shark Bay boo-ha-ha.
You could have have mermaids. You could have an army of skeleton cursed pirates. Something just slowly rise out of the water and, just be creepy.
So Capitan Salazar's army.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Or Tia Dalma, just all of a sudden rising from the water from behind Barbossa's ship. And she just starts like, come with me. Oh, dude. Oh, okay. All right. How would they reset it fast enough, though? Like, the pneumatics would just have to be spot on for something to happen, though.
I agree. So the only way they could really do it is if they spaced out the boats, which they're never really going to do because of the capacity they need to maintain. Although, on the other hand, that might be a reason to bring in the Fast Pass because now it's going to be a slower attraction line. But I don't think they're ever going to lower their capacity to do it. So it wouldn't really work unless it was just kind of a random thing. Like you'd never knew if they were going to pop up when you were there or not.
Yeah.
So like sometimes a few boats will go by without it popping up and then your boat gets surprised by it. And maybe they do random spots throughout the ride so that, no matter where you are in the row of boats, you'll see something pop out of the water somewhere. You know, so in that scene, maybe a few will pop up and then they'll lower. And then the boats that come right after that, maybe they won't see something until the village is burning scene, you know? And so you could have a few different spots where they come up, and that way you wouldn't have to rely on everybody not seeing the reset, you know, every time.
Yeah. I mean, if they did do it popping out of the cavern, then you have the left and right side where ideally they can just go back and forth, because there's a little bit of a turn where you can't necessarily see out of there when you're concentrating on the new effect that they added with the pirate changing from skeleton to real life, and Hank is down there just chilling waiting for Dory. And so if you have the effect just popping out from the left and right at the end of that cavern, I think is a good spot to do it. Or how about this? What if we go back to this whole human element, or at least cast members dressed up, and you implement more black lights in the treasure room and in the scene where they have the pirates playing chess, or the skeletons playing chess, and in the background you just kind of see, because of the black light, they're dressed in black and all you see is the skeleton parts, and they're moving around offering you rum in the background. And it's just that added element and movement that you normally don't get in the scene. You know, or you replace the two skeletons with people in the blacklight suits, and all of a sudden it's like, how about you play chess with us for rum? And then boom, it's like, what? Oh my God, what's
like
going on?
actors.
Right?
Like they're just still, and they're just doing the pose that everybody knows, and then all of a sudden they like both turn at you.
Yes.
That would creep me out.
Yes. I mean, it's a perfect location because switching lights on and off is super simple, right? So you would get it so that as you go down the waterfalls, you have the regular lighting. You hear a little bit of lightning as you're passing by the skeleton that's at the captain's wheel, right? You hear the lightning, and that's essentially what triggers new lighting sequences for the rest of that cavern. And all of a sudden, you're in blacklight territory with all these additional scenes. And if you kind of see them from the other side, it's okay, because they're still terrifying. Because if you kind of see them at a distance, you're going to be like, what's going on? What is happening over there that has never happened before? Right?
Now,
oh, man, I'm loving this.
I would love to see like the live actors or just the cast members being next to your boat.
For a triangle choke, right?
No. But I have a little story, and it's not a scary story. It's not supposed to be a scary place, but this is on Small World. And there's this. Okay, for those of you who've been on Small World, there's a little tunnel of a transition area that gets you from country to country, and or location to location, not country. Sorry, but so we're on a boat. It's a dark little place. There's a cast member on the side that just decides to walk past us. The whole boat just jumped. We just jumped. Why would I jump? I don't know. But it freaked me out because it was out of the normal. So, if they could do it on Small World, they could do it on Pirates.
Interesting.
I say it works.
Not where I thought that story was going. I thought you were going to say, like, and the kids were singing and they came to life on It's a Small World.
That would be a ride that would be pretty easy to make creepy, though. You know, a lot of people have that natural kind of fear or creepy feeling around dolls anyway, and dolls that come to life especially. So if they like change the song to a minor key and they change the lighting and maybe made the dolls all really twitchy, that could
add
be
some
pretty
fog
spooky.
and some red eyes. It's a
Right?
world of laughter.
Dim the background lights. Like, dim the background lights, but brighten up the dolls a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, just bring that
If
up.
you had one of the Disney villains like Maleficent say, "Children, you are under my command," and it's the first thing you hear as you're entering, you see like the lights dim and all of a sudden the kids have like red glowing eyes or green eyes to follow Maleficent.
Nice.
She's like the Pied Piper of It's a Small World. Dude,
That could be awesome.
That would be super creepy for real.
Oh, man.
I mean, aren't there like real ghost stories for Disneyland though? Like legit ghost stories where there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many fake videos on YouTube where it's like, did you see Walt's ghost walking out of the haunted mansion? And you could clearly tell that some of those are fake. But I think, oh man, I wish I remember what episodes we had talked about it in. But really early on in the podcast, we had talked about like some ghost stories where people can't leave Pirates of the Caribbean at night and close it without saying like, good night, George, because apparently George raises a ruckus, like it's the ghost of a former cast member or something like that. I forgot what it was.
Or
like
Timmy, the little boy, on Mansion.
Oh, in Mansion, right? And then in Interventions, also there's also a ghost in Interventions. Debbie, yeah. So yeah,
She's real.
well, I mean, I think
I experienced it.
well, I mean, I'm saying it's debatable that all of them are real because I think everyone that has talked about it in some way has experienced it. Well, not everyone, but I think the majority of people have actually experienced something that, you know, they feel that something is there. But it's just so odd to me how, you know, these experiences that you go to these haunts at Universal Studios and like the Queen Mary and all these things. I don't know why certain things are more scary than others. You know, they're just psychologically, they just mess with your head so much more. And so it's like, real ghosts, bring it on. I'm so for it. Oh, fake zombies and makeup. Nope, don't want to do that. No,
Well, because a ghost is just going to
Nope.
float by you and maybe make you cold. A zombie's going to eat your brains.
A ghost could also take over your body.
I haven't had that happen.
Not yet, but when it does, you're going to be like, oh my God, he was right.
A demon, maybe, but not a ghost.
Oh, that's true. A demon, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we're talking about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
That's very
that
true.
ride has demons in it.
That's very true.
Well, and that's a good point that you bring up, though, too, because I don't feel like all of these overlays that they do really work, right? Like,
Right.
I don't feel like Ghost Galaxy is much of a thing.
Ugh, it's horrible.
The only thing I really like about it is I do like the song. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, I'd rather have Hyperspace Mountain
Yeah.
or regular Space Mountain. And I feel like, you know, that one, I guess it was a neat concept, the idea of this space ghost monster thing. But I hear more questions when I'm on that ride than any other experience at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like, amid the screams, I hear people saying, what is that supposed to be?
Yeah, and that's the thing, that it's not really like a monster or anything. I think the way that they describe it is that it's an energy source or something that just happens to be in the face of something that's supposed to be scary. The music, though, you are right. The music is pretty good in comparison to other soundtracks. But my favorite thing about Ghost Galaxy is when it goes away. I don't care what I don't care what it's replaced with. But my favorite thing about Ghost Galaxy is when it goes away.
Yeah.
I like the outside better than the inside.
Yeah, the outside is cool. They do some cool stuff there.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the flip side, I feel like Monsters After Dark at at Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout works. I think that's a cool, you know, thing that they put in for the season. And, you know, it's not pumpkins and bats and witches. It's not Halloween, but it just kind of amplifies the scary, which, you know, lends itself to this season.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
yeah, and you know, I wonder if they're gonna ever do any more. You know, if there are any other attractions that it would actually work for. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to think of anything else that it would work for. Can you guys, like, have you thought of attractions that it's like, oh, this one needs a Halloween overlay?
Well, now that you've mentioned It's a Small World, I mean, you know, it's funny because none of these attractions were ever designed with an overlay in mind. You know, the design of these attractions was made to be what the attraction is as you are experiencing it. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is the first of its kind, I believe, in that the way that the attraction is staged for you, it was upgraded and plussed up in such a way where making the switch from Mission Breakout to Monsters After Dark just takes basically a ride reset. You know, you
yeah.
just you bring it down for 30 minutes to 60 minutes. You bring everything back up with a new soundtrack, new lighting sequence, and it's a computer program and a bunch of videos that you're watching, right? So the experience can change every hour if they want. Well, every couple of hours, because it does take 20 minutes to 60 minutes to bring the entire attraction back up.
Right. Even the costumes, it all works, and I really, really love the intensity of how everything feels inside.
Right.
I mean, it's great.
And for that one, it really works because for Guardians, you're used to seeing them fight all of these different creatures in the universe. So I think that was a super simple transition. The other ones, oh man, I don't think there are many other ones, unless you want to count the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Because them heffalumps, dude, whew! Like, what's scarier than those things? Oh, I keep wanting to call it Tom Sawyer Island. Pirate's Lair.
Yeah.
Right? What if you had like
I
a
still
mini
call
hunt?
it Tom Sawyer.
Well,
That-
I do
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's Galaxy's Edge, Jason. What if you had like a little haunt like on the island, right? You add
Yeah.
some fog and stuff like that. You have that like wilderness, aspect to it, like just like a DCA, but on a smaller scale. But there's nowhere to run because all there is water around you. And then off in the distance, the shaman is now like a voodoo king or something. Oh, I mean, it can work.
Okay, creative juices are flowing.
Yes.
Let me lay something on you.
Okay.
There's an attraction. I'm kind of springboarding from It's a Small World. There's an attraction that I think could make an easy, quick turn and become really cool and creepy, and that's the Enchanted Tiki Room.
I thought you were gonna say Roger
Ooh.
Rabbit's cartoon spin.
No.
The Tiki Room.
I don't know what they
okay?
could do there. But the Tiki Room, imagine spooky, creepy songs. They can change the lighting completely. They've already got thunder and lightning and rain effects.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
we could bring in black light with hidden, fluorescent paintings that come alive.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes.
with projection technology, like they could really change that environment. I've been thinking about Tiki Room a lot in the last year or so, and I feel like it's the ride or the attraction that needs the most attention as far as plussing and updating, because I feel like it's running on pure nostalgia at this point.
It definitely is.
It's not a technological marvel like it was 50 years ago. Today, people expect a little bit more. So, when people who experience it for the first time today go in there, they think, you people are weird. That show's just crazy. And, so I feel like it needs some updating anyway. And I think they could turn it into something really cool. I think they could, bring the show up and keep it light and kind of fun, spooky at the beginning, and then it could get really dark and creepy in the middle, like something, lightning could crash and it could take a real spooky turn, and then they could kind of end it light again, so that you kind of maintain that, fun Tiki Room feel, but you give a real spookiness in the middle.
I like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to build on your idea now. All right.
Do it.
We're
blue skying it, Hazen.
Yes,
Go for
totally.
it.
What was the raven called that was with Maleficent? You remember?
Diablo.
Okay. So Diablo.
Yeah.
Okay. So Diablo comes in and takes over the Tiki Room through Maleficent's orders, right? So the Tiki Room just starts off in the Tiki. And you see Diablo come in, and it's just like all of a sudden starts talking, right? And it's like, by order of Maleficent, I'm taking over the Tiki Room. And then all of a sudden, like the lights change, the black lights, like just like you were saying, like you change all the lighting, the black light, all the Tiki gods all of a sudden are angry, and you feel like you're going to die, right? And then, no, wait, hold on. Then and this is where the Disney synergy happens, all right? Here we go. Then all of a sudden you start hearing this music, this Polynesian music, and then boom, a projection of Teka appears on one side of the Tiki Room, and this lava god is trying to consume you and everyone in the Tiki Room. You're welcome.
No pun intended either.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's tons of opportunity here. You know, they could have animatronic versions of the 4 main birds, but as skeletons. Like bird skeletons. They could even start out as their regular selves, and then the lights go out, and when it comes back, they're skeletons now. And I mean, man, they could do so many things with this. They could give us some new songs, you know, way better than Haunted Mansion Holiday, which that graveyard song is terrible in that version.
My heart just broke.
Oh, come on. It's chaos. It's nonsense.
No.
Like, Grim Grinning Ghosts is a masterpiece. And you get to the graveyard in Haunted Mansion Holiday, and, I mean, you can't even understand a single word. It's awful. I love it, but that part's awful.
Yeah.
So they could give us some great, like, Sherman Brothers level songwriting in the spooky Tiki Room. Ooh, here it is. I got it. Walt Disney's Enchanted Freaky Room.
Sold. I'm in. Let's do this.
I want a shirt.
There we go.
Let's write up a proposal and send it to
Yes.
Imagineering.
Yes, we will do this. We'll make it happen. Next year for Halloween, this will be a thing.
Rumor has been planted.
There it is.
We don't have to
Love
report on this one because we started it.
I could stand by this one.
Oh, dude, imagine a projection of Tekka inside of the Tiki Room, just like engulfing everything. Dude,
That could be awesome.
sick.
Oh, yeah.
That would be scary and so good at the same time.
I know. People would come out like,
Right. So the only problem that I foresee is that they would have to address the queue area because there's not much room for a queue. And if they did something this fantastic, that queue is going to go past Jolly Holiday and down to freaking the Penny Arcade.
yeah. Or they would
Yeah.
have to build up like they did for Jungle Cruise. Because we
Yeah,
do
they
have to
could do
keep in
that.
mind that the Tropical Hideaway is going to be opening as well, which means there's already going to be a line for the people that are going to be eating at that
Right.
vicinity. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they could repurpose the bazaar and just make that a queue that kind of has a bridge that goes over into the Tiki Room.
That's true. That's true.
You know, and instead of loading from the front door behind the Dole Whip station, maybe that's the exit, and now you load in through the back door where people normally exit from. And that's where that bridge, you know, leads into that back door.
That's not a bad idea.
Ooh.
I like it.
All right, well, let's just keep restructuring Disneyland, guys.
Okay.
Sure. Can't expand. Go
I
up.
know. Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Oh, man. I'm, like, so excited about that idea. I can't even begin to tell you. So, I mean, let's throw it out to the listeners. If you guys had the opportunity to kind of Halloweenify, that's a word, okay? Whatever.
There you go.
If you had the opportunity to Halloweenify any attraction, which one would it be, and what would you add to it to give it that element of spooky? You know, because I think there aren't, I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody's going to come up with this amazing idea for the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. You know, who knows?
Yeah, no idea is going to be silly or, you know, well, it could be because you heard ours, but I mean, it's not going to be wrong. So
Yeah, there are
I
no
wanna
wrong
hear it
answers.
too.
Exactly. You're perfectly right. You're exactly right. There are no wrong answers. That's what the beautiful thing about, you know, blue skying these things is that everything that we say, any idea we have is right because it's just an idea.
Yeah.
You know, at least in our head, it makes perfect sense. So since we're in the Tiki Room vicinity, let's talk a little bit about some of the changes that happened this week. What has been one of the biggest problems you've experienced trying to get yourself a Dole Whip, guys?
The queue.
That line.
Exactly. Especially on a super hot day. You don't want to stand there for 6 hours to get a Dole Whip because, quite frankly, you can have somebody else stand in the line for 6 hours while you go do something else. But the wonderful thing that happened this last week is that Disney finally announced that the Tiki Juice Bar is getting Dole Whip Fast Pass with mobile ordering.
Yay!
Fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah.
The glorious thing ever.
Yeah, so as you guys remember, earlier this year, Disney introduced the ability to do this mobile ordering inside of the Disneyland app, which was an absolute game changer. When you have a big
Huge.
family and you're trying to find a place to sit, sometimes you lose out on those areas because you're standing in a line, and half the time your kids don't even know what they want because, maybe a cheeseburger, maybe mac and cheese. So the mobile ordering allows you to pre-order your food while you're standing in a queue somewhere. By the time you get out, you check in. Within a few minutes, your food is ready to go, and you've more than likely already found a place to sit by then. Having this at smaller locations like the Tiki Juice Bar and Harbor Galley, that's great because there isn't a lot of space to stand in line for those, and it is a bottleneck. Like Harbor Galley is another great example. That place is tiny, and when people line up for them lobster rolls, by the way, they have I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they have like a lobster mac and cheese there thing that like in a bowl.
What?
Yeah, they have a sourdough bowl with lobster mac and cheese now at the Harbor Galley. So there's something I think we want to give it a try.
Let's wait until it's not 100 degrees, because I feel like that's not a summertime treat.
Says you. That's an anytime treat, especially, look, I don't know if you guys, I think I've mentioned it to you guys, but I'm kind of allergic to some shellfish.
Oh, yes.
I eat it anyway because, quite frankly, it's delicious. And so I figure, look, you can't build up a tolerance if you don't put your body through it. All right? That's how it works.
Man.
It's called training. Look, I come from a family that likes to eat ceviche. And I can't I can't have it if I don't train myself. So I have a lot of Benadryl and a lot of stuff to help with the allergic reactions in the event something happens. But it's just too tasty not to have. I'm just saying.
Right.
You have to have it. The point is that mobile ordering was a game changer when they added it to a lot of the sit-down restaurants. And now that they have it in these smaller locations, I think it's certainly going to help with those lines that extend out as you're trying to walk by. And the bottlenecks are going to just decrease.
Okay, so the reason I don't get gumbo as much in New Orleans Square is because of the line. And by the time I want it, Fantasmic is going to happen. There's no way. To know that I could mobile order and pick that up, so excited. So excited. That, or I could go to Idolize Snacks and get me a chimmy there. I could just walk up. I mean, this is awesome that they're doing this. I haven't stood in line. I'm so spoiled.
It's awesome. If
I
any
love
of
it.
our listeners that are at the park frequently don't use that Disneyland app and don't use mobile ordering, I highly suggest it. Give it a try.
Yes.
You'll notice very first try how much better it is. And yeah, I've never waited more than 2 minutes once I've pushed that I'm here button.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible.
They're
It really
super
is.
fast.
Like the Bengal barbecue, I tried it there. And that's a notoriously kind of slow-moving line, and it's a really popular snack item. It's really the only place you can get real food in Adventureland until Tropical Hideaway opens. And so it's always backed up, and that was my very first thing that I used mobile order for. 30 seconds it took. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was walking off with my skewer and my tiger tails and looking back at that line that I could have stood in for 20 minutes thinking,
I wanna say
you
that
guys are
the-
so dumb.
I want to say what the most you're going to wait is what, 5 minutes?
About, yeah. I think that's the longest
that's-
we've waited.
If you make something that takes them a longer time to
Oh, yeah.
prepare, or if you order like for a whole family, yeah, it's going to take a few minutes, but that it's exponentially shorter than you would have spent if you waited in the line.
Right. Because
Yep.
when you wait in line, you have the entire time you waited in line, and on top of that, you have the time from when they place your order and until they make it.
Right.
You're essentially cutting back all the additional time from standing in line or getting there, deciding what you want, because you can decide while you're in a queue somewhere else. So you're right. It's I don't know why they haven't implemented something like this before here. It has saved us a lot of time. It's been great because while one of us goes to pick up the food, the other one is looking for a place to sit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's also important to note that this is not like MaxPass where you have to pay extra to get this service.
Right.
This service is included. And if you are an AP, it will link your AP discount right to that food purchase.
Yes.
So you don't have to do any of that. You do it all in the app. It's so easy and convenient. They're even doing it, the last time I used it was the last time I was there. And one of the new locations is Bayside Brews in Paradise Pier.
Oh, nice.
And if you go to that area, that Paradise Gardens area, anywhere around the general lunch or dinner time, you know that every line there is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's packed. And Bayside Brews is definitely no exception. And that line was wrapped around the planter, and it switched back over towards Silly Symphony Swings, and it was probably a 20-minute line. And I got on the app, I ordered a beer, got it in 30 seconds. I mean, it was just like that. And like I said, it's so valuable. It saves you so much time. You can get what you need and then get right back out there and look for that next attraction.
Look for that next beer.
Or that too.
That's something that's really, really awesome is you don't have to always order a meal. You could just get a coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And you're set.
The whole menu is available as
cool.
mobile.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, I will bring this up. Not everything is available on the app. So there's some things like, let's say I wanted to go to Jolly Holiday and I wanted to get like a specific coffee. They could make it specific for you. Like if you wanted half coffee, half hot chocolate, you can't order that on the app. So there are some things you can't do.
So some modifications aren't available.
Got it.
That makes sense.
I'm sure that as more locations are built out for the ability for mobile ordering, I mean, it's already so inconvenient to stand in the line. Do you think it's ever going to reverse, that so many people are going to be mobile ordering that it's just going to flip the script and now mobile ordering will be slower than just standing in the line?
No, because not everybody uses the app. And not a lot of people have APs. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to ever be like that. I hope. I'm going to knock on wood. But I don't think so.
I could foresee maybe some locations where at times that might happen, especially if there are multiple windows open and they typically only have one mobile window. And you could walk up and see, 6 people standing in front of that mobile thing waiting for their already placed orders, and maybe 2 or 3 of the windows are actually open.
Yeah.
And there are scenarios where you could walk up and do it faster that way. But I think that's going to be a rare occasion, because everything about it is so much more efficient that it's never going to have a real backup. Every experience I've had no more than 2 or 3 people waiting there with me at the mobile order, and those just get cranked out, because there's no discussion, there's no questions. They've already placed their order. The cast members are already building it. And, you don't have to worry about, things like language barriers or, questions about discounts or anything like that. It just, you've already done it all. Right. And so it's awesome. And the Dole Whip thing, golly, that's huge.
What a lot of people were saying is, what a time to be alive for Disney fans. Because, man, skip that line. It is beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like I want to have this conversation again next year in the middle of summer when 200 people are placing a mobile order for a Dole Whip float and see what type of bottleneck it creates in that pathway, or if it actually is as streamlined as possible.
Now, I wonder, okay, so I got a question now. Since there's time frames of when you could pick it up, I wonder if there's a cap per time, like a fast pass.
Oh,
Yes.
That's interesting.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You're exactly on the right track. Right now, it always says like the very next window of time. Like it's basically now until whenever.
Right.
And once more and more people use it, you're going to start to see that time just get pushed out a little when you go to the app.
Yeah.
So you could look at your choices. You could look at the line for it and say, well, I could stand in this line for 20 minutes and get my food, or I can come back in an hour and it'll be ready instantly. It's going to be just like FastPass, really. And right now, not enough people are using it that those times are pushed out into the future, like later in the day. But there will come a point for that. So it will be interesting, Hazen, to look at it next summer when 200 people are all trying to order a Dole Whip at once and see how far out that time is.
Yeah.
If it's noon on a Saturday and you want to order it and you can't come back and get it until 4, maybe you don't order it.
Or maybe you stand in the line that's going to take
or
you 20
maybe you stand in the
minutes.
line that
Yeah.
takes you 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will come down to choices eventually in that scenario. But it's just like FastPass. It's so much better than wasting your time in a queue if you don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I think that the more places that roll it out, it's just going to facilitate getting food or snacks or drinks, regardless of where you are in the park. Since we're talking about it now, you mentioned using mobile ordering for a beer purchase not too long ago. Let's talk about this other really interesting announcement that happened, and that was that Galaxy's Edge will become the first land at Disneyland proper, outside of Club 33, to offer alcoholic beverages. I mean, where do you guys stand on the idea of serving alcohol at Galaxy's Edge?
I think in general, I'm fine with it. I don't have any real, deep felt problem with it. I understand that there's a kind of a different culture, so to speak, at Disneyland, and the fact that it has never had alcohol. And, I think a lot of people see that and they kind of feel like there's this purity of the nostalgia and the history of the park, where so many other parks in the area, including DCA, and so many parks, other Disney parks like the Disney World parks, have it. And it's like we've always maintained that this one doesn't. It's kind of like this sacred space almost. And the fact that you can go places like DCA and Downtown Disney and have it readily available if you need it, if you want it. You can go get a drink at the Disneyland Resort. But the fact that you couldn't ever at Disneyland, I understand that a lot of people want to keep it that way. But Galaxy's Edge is going to be, off the beaten path, quite literally, and it's going to be outside the railroad berm, and I don't feel like it's going to really have that big of an effect on Disneyland as a whole unless it's the gateway, and if it's successful there, then they'll expand those offerings to other parts of the park. Then it might start to change that culture of Disneyland.
I'm excited, and it's not just for the alcohol. I am just gonna say it right there. It's like don't paint a picture of me like that. But I'm excited. One, I want to see this cantina.
Yes.
And I know it's not the same one as we've known, in Tatooine, but I've been wanting to sit or be in a cantina and have that atmosphere. I want to have that experience. About the alcohol, I think it's going to be pretty cool. I don't see it being an issue because I've heard, or actually I've read, I forgot where I read, that they're going to be guarding it and you're not going to be able to take that alcohol outside of that cantina, which is very good. And I like that idea because you're going to be limited to that. Having to be able to experience having a drink at Club 33, I didn't get drunk. No, I would never. Because one, you're in a really nice establishment. Why would you do that? And plus, you're going to go to Disneyland. Why would you do that? Just an enjoyable one. So that part of me is like, all right, cool. This is going to be a different experience. And I do understand the other side, the purists. I understand those who don't want the alcohol or the beer. But I've noticed security is very, very good. They've been really upping their game with any type of situation. I think they're going to be okay. We're not going to have any issues. And if anyone were to argue, what's the difference between having a drink there at the cantina than getting a drink at DCA and just hopping on over to Disneyland?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I fall. So I see both sides. I really do. But I'm really excited just to experience this. Just anything new I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of really great points, Melissa, because I mean, they've always pretty much served alcohol, but I think Disney in general learned a lot of lessons from things like Electronica and Mad Tea Party and the experiences that they had with people over drinking at that portion of the park and how to deal with that type of situation. Because when that first started, you would see a lot of guests that were very belligerent, versus cast members and other guests. And you don't see it as often as you did before because Disney has been policing it a lot more. So I think you're absolutely right. They've done a really great job of kind of cleaning up that process. And to the point that you said, who's to stop somebody from going to Bayside Brews and then Carthay Circle, back to Bayside Brews, and then, to all these different locations to get as smashed as possible, aside from the visual of somebody being absolutely drunk or, staggering and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's usually when they step in and they say, look, I think you've had enough. We can't really sell anything to you. And of course, they'll probably yell and scream, and then Disney security will get involved and escort them out of the park if they have to. But you're right. People can go to downtown Disney, get as sloshed as they want to, and then just walk right into any one of the parks. So the fact that cast members have gotten better at noticing those situations where it could pose a threat to a cast member or a guest, that's great. I commend them for that, because you were saying, Gavin, if Galaxy's Edge is just a test case to see how well it's going to do at Disneyland, I'll tell you right now, here's my prediction. It's going to do fantastic. Because alcohol is the #1 seller at California Adventure. And it's going to be the #1 seller at Galaxy's Edge. So it quite possibly is. I mean, this will open the doors for them to serve alcohol at Tomorrowland Terrace. If you have yourself a good burger, you want yourself a good beer, or if you go to Frontierland, the Cowboys used to drink beer all the time. Why can't you at Frontierland? You're at French Market and you have some like pommes frites and you want like a glass of wine or something. Why can't you get one?
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
They need little coconut drinks at Tropical Hideaway with umbrellas and rum in it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's something you can already get at the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah.
Right? You can already get the Dole Whip float at the Disneyland Hotel. Yeah. Wouldn't you be able to offer it, at the Tiki Hut now? So I think you're right. I think it is a test case, and we are going to start seeing more of that in the park. It's just how long will it take for them to roll it out in these other lands? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when are they going to roll it out.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think you're right about that.
But I mean, I'm looking forward to it, just like you said, Melissa. I mean, there are some, even some of our listeners that I know have experienced the cantina scene for Star Wars, because there is the Scum and Villainy pop-up, in LA.
Yeah.
My brother went to that and he enjoyed it a lot. He says it's super fun to just kind of sit in the Star Wars cantina and have a drink or two, and seeing all the people that are cosplaying, as Leia, Luke, Han, and Greedo in some cases, and they'll sit there and they'll recreate scenes and everything. And it's just a fun environment. If
That's awesome.
Get Disney involved and they start implementing some of those ideas into the cantina, imagine just kind of seeing these like stage shows as part of your experience there. I don't know if that's planned or not, but I just think it would be super cool for them to stage these things out where maybe you have like a drunk alien and they're kicking them out or something. You know what I mean?
I feel like they are. I mean, everything that they've told us about Galaxy's Edge is how interactive it's going to be and how much you're going to be able to take part in the story, and we know that cantinas, from the films are, meeting places for bounty hunters and rogue pilots and whatnot. And, there are many scenarios that they've hinted at where you could go on, the Millennium Falcon mission ride and, receive some instructions from somebody and, you're supposed to take those later on to somebody in the cantina or somebody somewhere else in Galaxy's Edge. So there's going to be sort of a bit of a role-playing element which you can partake in. And, I can definitely see them kind of acting things out. We kind of have a taste of it with the stormtroopers patrolling Tomorrowland. I feel like there's going to be more of that in Galaxy's Edge where, maybe a bounty hunter will come up and, ask you if you want to, pay him to do something, or, if you'll, I don't know. I think there's going to be a number of scenarios like that. Obviously in the cantina, we're going to have music, and I think we're gonna definitely hear that famous cantina music, which we already know and love. The interesting thing is that it's gonna be a DJ scenario. It's not gonna be a live band.
Oh, interesting.
And so they're bringing in what's his name, Rex from the original Star Tours.
Oh, nice.
Captain Rex.
He's got a new career, and he is a DJ these days, and he's going to be working that cantina in Galaxy's Edge. And I know I will be so happy to see our old friend Rex hanging out and just listening to what shenanigans he's going to have to regale us with, because he's going to have jokes and funny, like he's gonna have screw ups because he's kind of clumsy and whatever. I think it's gonna be great. I can't wait to see him again.
That's funny. Hey, who owned I don't know if you know the answer to this, but who owned the bar on Tatooine?
I've got no idea, actually. I don't know if it's mentioned in the films, and that's all I'm really familiar with is the Star Wars films. I don't read any of the books or histories or any of that.
What
so
kind
I don't
of
know.
a Star Wars nerd are you, Gavin?
I like movies.
You know who would know?
I love the movies.
We should ask Jared. I'm sure Jared would know.
I bet Jared would know.
The only reason I'm asking is because in everything that I've read and everything that I've heard, they've really made it a point to say it's Oga's Cantina. And they're really pushing the fact that it's Oga's Cantina. So I didn't know if, like, Oga had, like, a franchise or something like that where it's like, on every planet, Oga's Cantina is where you go for your galactic drinks.
It's the TGI Fridays of space.
It's pretty much, yeah. That's funny. That's going to be the title of this episode. The TGI Fridays of space. Maybe not. I don't want to get sued by TGI Fridays.
Yeah, no.
Hashtag not sponsored.
What do they call it? No, what's the restaurant in Office Space? That's the same thing.
Tchotchkes?
That's it.
We're going to have to come up with our own tchotchkes then. That's funny.
At night, can it become Club Obi-Wan?
OMG.
I was wondering if you guys were going to get that reference.
Oh,
dude, that's super cool.
Gee.
That would be awesome. See, that's why we need to be part of the Imagineering team.
I'll do it for free.
Not me.
Well, I mean, hey, to say I was a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that one of my goals is to be a cast member for at least a day. If being part of the Imagineering team for like a day would get me that badge and, give me that title, then great. I'm all for it. Yeah, that interactive element at Galaxy's Edge, man, it's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most. But I hear that it's also one of the most challenging things that they're dealing with, especially with the Millennium Falcon right now, because the entire idea was for 8 people to sit in the cockpit of the Falcon, and each one of them was going to control a different part of it, and you had to work together in order for it to fly through space. And if one of you failed, you would crash or something would happen that wasn't part of the story the way that it was written. That was where the interactivity was happening. And the biggest challenge that they're having is that if you go in with a group of friends, you all know each other, you can all interact with each other, but if you're a single rider and then you're interacting with another group and you can't communicate with them, or there's a language barrier, or they're not Star Wars fans and they don't know what they're doing, it's going to completely ruin your experience. So I think the challenge that they're facing is, how do we cater this to the non-Star Wars fan as much as we do to the Star Wars fan that wants it to be interactive? You know,
They should probably have skill levels, like different, because they're going to have multiple cockpits, right? It's not going to be like one Millennium Falcon sitting there, right? I mean, it is, but when you go in, you're going to have multiple cockpits. And so you could have like, let's say if there's 6, just to throw a number out there, you could have 4 of them just be like beginner level. So that's like the everybody experience. So it's limited levels of rider participation, where it's more of you just go in and experience it. But then the people that want to challenge can go into the expert level or the ace pilot level or something like that. And then it's more of a challenge, where you have to actually increase your skills to actually have a successful mission.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that idea.
So it kind of sounds like a little bit, maybe a 1/10 of mission space, where you have your 2 people and one person's this, one person's that, and they press a button at a certain time, but you can't really lose.
Yeah.
Because it just happens. So it kind of sounds like that. I like it.
To circle back to this whole alcohol conversation, so we can close that up. It is interesting to see, that they are going to be policing the alcohol. I mean, historically, the reason Disneyland didn't have any alcohol was just because that's what Walt wanted. When the entire idea of Disneyland was kind of floating through his head, we all famously know the story of him being at Griffith Park with his daughters and riding around the merry-go-round, and he kind of saw what it was like, and he just thought to himself, look, I want something that's better. I want something where families can go and experience family fun time at a wonderful place that's clean. And at the time, places like Coney Island and these traveling carnivals and circuses were all around the U.S., and the stereotype of the carny as we know it today, where they're always trying to cheat people and there's all this debauchery happening and stuff, that's what Walt didn't want. His idea of having Disneyland was the exact opposite of all of that. Club 33 was designed for him to take businessmen and all these people that were going to help him fund the park, very special guests, dignitaries, political figures, and everything visiting you at the park. Of course you want some kind of drink. Going beyond that, it is really going to be interesting, because the last thing you would want is to have somebody walking around Fantasyland, with a beer. But, going back to this whole gateway thing, if that's truly going to happen, how long will it be before that lime green cup is floating around and we see them all in front of the castle?
Yeah, that's a fair point. But again, there's the idea of keep moving forward, and it's a different era, and there are different taboos or lacks of taboos today as compared to when the original idea was conceived. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation to be had, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've hit on the key, though. You keep moving forward. The fact that every other park has it, like you said, even DCA, you got to keep up with the times, right? Very recently, we had that conversation about how the theme park industry essentially changed with the opening of Diagon Alley, and how they've realized that it's not just for children anymore, that there are adults that love these other properties and products that were at times just thought to be for children. But our generation is growing up with the love of all of these properties, that we are all kids at heart, but we also are adults and love to enjoy the adult aspect of it. I want to hear from the listeners. This is one of those topics where I think we're going to have a lot of different takes, as far as whether people don't or do like it. So if you guys have an opinion on the idea that Galaxy's Edge is going to be serving alcohol, join the conversation over on Instagram, Twitter, or on Facebook. Just search for Podketeers. And we'd love to hear your opinion on where you stand on that side of the conversation. And then we'll take some of those comments and we'll read them in a future episode, just to kind of, hear what everybody has to say about it. All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode.
Cool.
I think so.
Is it tacos and beer time? It is the middle of the day. I mean, it's lunchtime.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, it's lunchtime. We got to eat something. Why not tacos and beer?
I can't think of a reason.
That's what I'm saying. So, I think we should close up the podcast so that we can take care of that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this episode of Podketeers is brought to you in part by listeners just like you guys. We like to call those listeners our Fairy Godparents, but they like to call themselves the FGP Squad. And for as little as $1 a month, you can be a part of the FGP Squad by going over to podketeers.com/FGP. But for a minimum contribution of at least $5, you will also get the exclusive Fairy Godparent button as a thank you for your support. The FGP Squad means so much to us. If you guys do or don't know the story, kind of the TLDR about it is that some time ago, I didn't know if the podcast was going to be able to continue because, quite frankly, I was not in a position to really have it continue. And the Fairy Godparents just kind of swooped in, helped us out. You know, all of the money that comes through via Patreon from their contributions helps us with the monthly fees associated with running a podcast. You wouldn't know it, but it's not free. It actually does cost money to run a free podcast. Wouldn't you know? And so our Fairy Godparents have just been super supportive of what we've been doing, and we love them for that. We truly appreciate all of their support. So again, if you guys would like to become part of the FGP Squad, head over to podketeers.com/FGP for more information. If you would like to help us out in a slightly different way, great way to do that is if you shop on Amazon, head on over to podketeers.com/Amazon and look for the huge Amazon button that's on that page. Why is it huge? Because it's just funny. I mean, there's really no other reason. It's because we just wanted something funny for the page, and what was funnier than having a huge button that you really can't miss when you're scrolling down? If you're looking at it on a widescreen monitor, like seriously, it takes up the whole screen. It's like stupidly big. But if you're on a phone, obviously it just, it just looks like a big button. But if you use our link, click through, go to Amazon, place your order, Amazon will give us a small commission as a thank you for mentioning them on the podcast. And to everyone that's taking the time to do that, we really appreciate that support as well. So thank you to all of you. And if you want to follow any of us, head over to podketeers.com/team for all of our personal links. I don't think I got anything else. Is that it? Is it taco and beer time? I'm trying to rush this.
I think it's fine.
I think we're about there.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, guys, that's going to be it. Again, join the conversation over on Facebook, Instagram, and on Facebook. Nope, said that twice. I really want lunch.
Or you really want people to go to Facebook.
Or I really want people to go to, yeah, one of the two, right? All right, that's it. We're done. Until next week, here is to beers, cheers, and Mickey ears. Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Bye.
Made you look.